Welcome everybody to Health Tech B2B Sales Data Protection. I'm one of your hosts, Jose Garcia, and this kind of I'm actually feel really good about this webinar. I mean, I feel good about all my webinars, but this webinar, which is actually Jovan's webinar, and Jovan is actually the very first speaker I ever actually got for a health technology webinar. I won't say how long ago, but it was a while ago. And now we're doing a webinar together, hosting it together. And he's spoken in a lot of my webinars, and now I'm hosting one of his webinars. Thank you so much, Jovan, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Jose. I see this journey of you presenting webinars and organizing webinars is going really well.
But this is not my webinar. This is yours. But yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And
not everybody here knows you, Jovan.
Sure. So hello, everyone. Welcome everyone to this webinar that we co-organized with Jose. Without Jose's help and organization skills and networking skills, this wouldn't be possible. So my name is Jovan Stevovic. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Chino. Chino is a company specializing in data protection and security for digital health since more than 10 years in the market, helping hundreds of digital health and medtech startups and companies to deliver their solutions to the market. And of course, we help them to pass the barriers. And yeah, again, as Jose said, we thought about creating a webinar where we will highlight success stories from amazing entrepreneurs. Today we have 4 entrepreneurs from 4 different companies, all in B2B space, and all offering very, very cool, innovative products to the market, and who went through similar but different paths in terms of product development and challenges on data protection and selling, developing, testing, doing clinical trials, studies, and selling their products to the market. So we thought about asking them to tell their stories, their journeys, and tell us lesson learned, and also what they would have done differently. So perhaps it's useful for the others in the space. So Jose, shall we start?
Yeah, and well, we've got 3 entrepreneurs. We got 1 entrepreneur in a taxi, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Thank you so much, Jovan. And actually, I've learned a lot about health tech, digital health, and compliance from speaking to this man in webinars and interviews and following your posts. And often I just kind of repeat what you said, and everyone goes, "Oh wow, he must know what he's talking about." And but yeah, we're gonna bring on our first speaker.
Yes, let's do it.
And voila, Francesca. Wow. Thank you so much for coming. I think some of you may have seen video clips of Francesca recently. I did an interview with her 1 or 2 weeks ago, and I'm glad I didn't scare you away. You've come back, and I'm not gonna. Francesca's got a lot of experience from lots of different angles, research, and from lots of different roles in digital health. So she's going to give us her big picture vision. I'm wondering if you can introduce yourself a little bit, Francesca.
Okay, thank you very much, Jose, for this nice introduction. My name is Francesca Sernissi. I'm in charge of business development and clinical affairs in Genesis. Genesis is an Italian spin-off company born in 2021, initially focused on research and development in the health tech space, and recently certified ISO 13485 as manufacturer of medical devices.
So, Francesca, to get a bit more a glimpse about your product and what you're offering. So you are interesting story about your company is by the way, Jose wrote the chat is open. So we are going to do these 4 interviews, and attendees, please write down your questions in the chat. We will have time afterwards to read them and to ask them to the different participants. So, Francesca, I was saying you have a very interesting story because your company startup is a spin-off, as you mentioned, from a large company. So it's a journey, very very nice project, and it's a journey that started with a full team of experts that developed a medical product and launched on the market. So can you tell us a bit the product and how this journey went on?
Okay, sure. Thank you, Jovan. So our first medical device is Arc IntelliCare. This is an AI-powered medical device for telerehabilitation that's been clinically validated and certified according to the medical device regulation, with the intended use to helping patients with different disabling conditions to recover and preserve as long as possible their function and their autonomy in daily life activities. ARC basically improves the adherence to home exercise rehabilitation programs, the latter being personalized thanks to ARC on the patient's needs. And our target customers are rehabilitation services, including private rehabilitation centers, home care providers, and recently also senior living facilities.
Okay, so different type of target organizations, and we know that at the end in B2B sales, and that's what we want to hear from you. The B2B sales brings the different challenges, right, in data protection and questions and so on and so forth. So considering all those 3 different target customers and the others that you probably explored and that you talked to and that you interacted with, so can you tell us who is really the most challenging and who does really care in those target customers? Who cares about data protection? Who is asking the tough questions?
Oh, right. So in my experience, since we are dealing with both large, medium, and also small rehabilitation services, in my experience, large and medium-sized rehabilitation centers have also a DPO, so a data protection officer taking in charge all the different aspects related to compliance and data protection, while smaller rehabilitation services, including private studios, small home care providers, or rehabilitation professionals, generally do not have a DPO and basically rely on local legal firms that basically provides legal documentation, advices, consent forms, but they do not have a DPO.
So basically, the more structured the target organization, the more thorough analysis, right? And more challenging questions. Okay. And so you as a startup and company started as a spin-off, as we said, you did a lot of work on all certifications, trials, and also then legal and technical side. I remember your journey in doing a lot of things on data security and compliance, really professionally and properly. So what do you think at the end now, looking back, what do you think is the most important thing of all those data protection, compliance, and security and requirements that you have done? What is the thing that gave you the most value in this afterwards at the end?
Okay, good question. So I think the most important aspect in bringing Arc IntelliCare to the market has been really the opportunity to build trust among potential clients and already established clients, both on our product and also on the services we are providing together with the product. And we have achieved, we are still achieving this goal actually, by providing evidence on product and services reliability. This means a robust clinical validation process with published results. This is very good also for marketing and communication purposes. CE marking the device according to the new medical device regulation. For instance, this is a critical milestone to be achieved, but once achieved, it also increased barrier to adoption of devices in this space, in the health tech space. GDPR compliance, for sure, it has been one of the most important milestone we have reached, and the fact that we have proven compliance with a trustable partner, it has been important as well for us. And this last point is especially true during the lead generation process and also during negotiation with clients, especially with the larger clients with which we need to open a discussion with the DPO.
Okay, sure. Cool. So looks like you have again done everything. I remember all the steps of your journey. So of course, after completing such a long journey and energy requiring so much energy and effort, I guess we all learn something at the end. So is there anything that you will have done differently, or anything where you have spent energies in a different way?
Yes, I think probably I would have now I would skip the first clinical trial we did, which was conducted too early on a prototypal version of ARC. So it was 2018. The medical device regulation was not yet in force. We thought in the beginning that one clinical trial could be enough for certification. We did this trial on just one health condition, on post-stroke patients. And then once MDR was in force, we discovered that this trial was not enough. Indeed, we did 2 further clinical trials. The third one was an early feasibility study conducted according to the FDA requirement and study design, and this was a successful clinical trial. So okay. I would probably have done directly the early feasibility study.
Okay, interesting. So interesting how the change of such a big regulation in a long journey, and typically digital health and medtech companies have a longer journey than perhaps fintech and so on. So how such a big change of regulation can really change all the plans. So no, cool. Thanks for your experience here. Again, for those that joined after we started talking to Francesca, if you have any questions, feel free to write in the chat, and we will come back to the speakers later on with some additional questions. We will have some time, I hope. So thank you, Francesca. Jose, you like?
All right. Here we go. And our next speaker, welcome, Daniele. And I met you about a month ago, and Daniele is going to educate us about use cases, and you have a lot of experience with clinical trials. Now, I'm wondering if you could introduce yourself and explain a bit about what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Jovan, for the invitation of speaking here and share our experience in a very tough environment like the one of the MedTech. So I'm one of the co-founders and today CEO of Syndiag. Syndiag is an Italian startup company that was born in 2019 as a spin-off company of the Polytechnic University of Torino. My background is with a PhD in physics, so I entered the space of healthcare and medical device as an outsider. So I need to learn a lot about the field where we were going to work with. Syndiag is a startup company that focused all of its activity on early diagnosis of gynecological cancers. We started with ovarian cancer, that is one of the key challenges in this field, mainly due to the late diagnosis. So everything in gynecology is diagnosed through ultrasound scan visits, And the fact that ultrasound is very operator dependent makes it challenging to make a correct evaluation of any medical condition in gynecology. We decided to start with ovarian cancer because it's one of the most problematic and it has the highest mortality among cancers for women. So our product Ovai is actually being split in two different medical devices across with the changes of medical regulation in the years. We have Ovai Focus. It is a medical device for description of ultrasound scan, and Ovai X for the differential diagnosis. We use artificial intelligence to power up these medical devices so that any medical visit that passes can be understood completely by the doctor so that we can enable the early diagnosis in this case.
It looks like you started working on AI and such a impactful challenges many years ago before AI became such a big topic. But buzzword AI and big topic. So let's focus on the most important thing. You pulled out, by talking to you, I was always amazed how you pulled out so many clinical studies at the end. Startups especially struggle in getting the data for clinical studies, for developing and testing their products in the study phase, right? So can you tell us a bit, how did you make this? How did you pull out this, conducting so many clinical studies? Was it tough to engage, to get the data was it tough to get the legal approval, the data protection, or was it so easy because you did that mostly in Italy, right? So perhaps that's also interesting.
Yeah, that's true. And the journey has been pretty much complex in order to do that properly. But the key advantage that we had, since we run the company since 2019, that was the year when we started the first clinical trial here in Italy. We got the advantage that we were starting from a research environment. The founders were coming out from the universities, and we had collaboration with the hospital and the university department of the hospital. So everything started from the collaboration between us and the researcher in the hospital. So in that way, we hadn't had in the beginning the idea to start a clinical trial, but it was from the hospitals, and we were supporting them in order to manage it properly. So we were kind of consultants for the hospital there, and we were able to enable them with the right technology at very, I would say, no cost for managing all the data enrollment. So we co-designed the activity of enrollment and how to use the AI that needed to be developed in order to process properly those kind of data. The real advantage there was the collaboration with the doctors. They had the vision to develop a new AI engine in order to make automatic something that is very complex for them to perform, like the differential diagnosis of ovarian cancer. Since this was an activity that started from the university and the hospital, we took advantage of something that Italy makes available for companies, that is a government decree that allows to purchase, so the company can purchase the results of clinical trials conducted by universities and hospitals. And that was a key advantage because in that way we were able to go around and find different hospitals that participated into the trial, that was multi-centric trial, and then be able to leverage those data as an advantage for the MDR clearance of the product that we had. We replicated the same model in Israel, where we have another site of enrollment that was formerly a second clinical trial started. And right now that we made experience on how to manage these trials, we are able to start this year other two new trials. So we are talking about 4 trials in parallel now to be managed with our technology.
That's cool. I mean, we always, again, daily basis talk with entrepreneurs, and it's always the challenge. Okay, I need to engage in a clinical study or trial. That's costly. That takes a lot of energy and resources to set up, to run. And you found somehow a very collaborative way to engage with them and get with passion, convincing the doctors and specialists with passion and their day-to-day work to help you to pull out the product and start.
It's totally true. The passion by the doctors was really the driver for everything that we were doing here. Since we decided to work and invest our energies where there was no solution, but the one that we were designing and developing for tackling this kind of challenging clinical problem. So we were the first, and the doctors were very, very involved in tackling it together with us.
Oh, cool. Very, very nice story. And I think, one of the key lessons I've heard in the last period, I mean, that I would suggest to entrepreneurs to approach this fundamental step in a collaborative way with doctor specialists, because they can get passion and help a lot. But and when it comes to data protection and privacy and these challenges and so on, which frequently, if you approach the clinical trial in a professional, standardized way, it can be really an obstacle. It looks like that in this approach that you followed, you also were able to get access to data and collaborate without too many obstacles. I mean, can you
No,
confirm?
there were many obstacles in doing that, but also they started as well from the collaborative research.
Tell it in a way that it looks easy, so perhaps you can tell us.
Yeah, after 6 years that we do that, it looks easy, but we needed to go through a lot of challenges in order to do that. And first of all, probably the main one was the fact that we were tackling the problem from the company perspective, so in a very professional way, very well aware of all the constraints that all the regulations, starting from GDPR to MDR to the very new AI Act, they were posing to us and to our activity. But when you are working in the hospital, here we are talking about mainly public hospitals in Italy, and also we had the other case in which we were moving data from Israel to Europe. All of this, let's say, regulation is not really totally understood or totally took in consideration. So clearly all the hospitals have the DPO, but all of this knowledge stands at the level of the management of the hospital or of the data privacy officer in the hospital. And very rarely it stays with the doctors. Doctors are very well engaged in doing research, and they are very well used to use non-anonymized data. So it was from us that we needed to push the doctors in order to be compliant with the way in which we wanted to get data and to assure that those data were respecting the rolling criteria and that they were respecting the GDPR criteria for the pseudo-anonymization of the data itself. So it was on us to push the compliance. And that was a bit of a challenge because we are acting as engineers and professionals, talking with the doctors. So we needed to establish a common language before.
Okay, cool. No, so a lot of interesting feedback. So you somehow played with both GDPR and MDR in to push forward the thing. So what would be the difference in terms of effort, and so which one has had to be solved and clarified before the other? What was somehow the first thing that was most important for you? Was like clarifying the MDR and clinical study, or was like also the data topic, or did this happen at the same time somehow contemporary?
Well, for our story, probably they happened at the same time. We started in 2019. We got the CE mark according to the old directive as a class 1 medical device. That was 2021. But we needed to think about GDPR already when the clinical trial started. So again, today I would say that first you need to think about GDPR and the data privacy for sensitive data. And all of the rest come forwards as a consequence somehow.
Interesting. Yeah. Thanks for your testimony here. Really interesting.
Thank you.
I see questions popping up, so Jose is going to
So much. I think we're gonna
bring that later.
do you mind coming back a little bit later? We've got some questions. We're gonna have a group hug. And
so
now we bring on our next speaker. I feel like a bit like a game show host. Next speaker. Hello, Johannes.
Hello, nice to meet you all.
And Johannes has very interesting use case. and not, and also different kinds of partnerships. You deal a lot with insurance companies, and I don't think a lot of health tech companies deal with insurance companies. So we're going to be getting a different perspective. And I'm wondering, Johannes, if you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. So my name is Johannes. I'm the co-founder of Youth. I have a mixed background. I started my career as a physical therapist, worked a couple of years in the healthcare system before I got another degree in management and technology, and then worked a couple of years in insurance, insurtechs and insurance companies, and then ultimately founded my own company, which is called Youth Health Tech. And one of our main partners are insurance companies in the health and also in the life insurance space. And yeah, that brings us here where we are.
So, Johannes, you are, apart from bringing a very interesting product to the market, very, very, very cool product, very well also executed. I have tried myself, and it looks really nice. But you are selling also to one of the most challenging actors out there. We have seen previously with Francesca and Daniele that with hospitals and doctors, somehow you can play around. You depending on the size, depending on the complexity, depending how you face them. But can you tell us about the insurances? I guess there it's the game is really tough.
Yes. So our product is a smartphone-based health screening. That means you can take your phone, can take different data inputs, like highly sensitive data, like face videos, audio recordings, to create health data and check the health status of the end user. And we are distributing this with insurance companies and working together with them. And it's not easy to work with them because insurance companies have a very, very high level of trust to remain, because their users, their insured persons, have to trust them a lot. Data breaches and things like that would really kill their reputation, and users would run away. So that's why they are very sensitive to that topic. Nevertheless, they have a lot of data, and they want to have a lot of data because that helps them to optimize their operations towards more health. That helps them to calculate their risks better. So they are not very easy partners, but good partners for health tech companies. And I think what makes it special to work with them is everyone is afraid of working with them, but you need to work with them. So they will guide you to the ideal way.
Yeah. So you said they will guide you. So how about data protection and audits and reviewing your company trust in the process? How much of this work happens during the sales first interaction, and how much happens during the later stage? Where do you see the most challenging steps in engaging with them?
Yeah. So this is always one of the first questions is, are you GDPR compliant, HIPAA compliant? What about data security? Where do you host this? Where is it backed up? And so on. So this comes very early in the sales process. And you need to see this as a hygiene factor. So you need to have it. It's not a sales argument if you are GDPR compliant or not. Is standard that it is there. So that's very important for them. What I would encourage young startups to do is that even if they are not there, do not shy away from speaking with insurances already. Because even if you are not ready or do not have implemented every ISO and whatever you will need, you can work on that on the way through when you establish the contract, when you work with them. Because it will be anyway like that the insurance companies will have their own requirements and will ask you this and that. So you have to be in a constant exchange with them and can develop it on the way. So you don't have to be completely ready, because you will, as a young startup, you will never be completely ready. So just start speaking with them and think more of it. Okay, what is possible from a data security point of view, and not think, okay, they will block everything and we need to be completely ready.
Okay, that's very cool feedback. Frequently, I guess startups, myself, when I started 10 years ago, I was also scared about those questions and answering no to some questions that are there in the checklist, in the questionnaires that we are getting. What you are saying here is that you need to be able somehow to control the discussion, to have an open discussion and have an informed discussion. But is this also coming with the fact that you need to know the topic somehow beforehand, what it is, what it means to get ready, or somehow was it like learning by doing?
So a bit of our benefit was that I worked in insurance before and was already aware of some of the principles, which they follow. And then I think help of a professional institution, in that case, like Gino, is helpful to have some experts on the side, because you have to have some understanding. So what you need to convey in the sales pitches or sales calls, as well as when the product is then on the way, is always that you have sensitivity for data, so that you are aware that this is very important for them and that you take care of it, and you have an understanding what can lead to data breaches, where are risk factors, and what makes data secure and what doesn't. If you have this understanding, you can start working with it. So a basic understanding is required. A detailed knowledge is not necessary, because you can develop it on the way and with partners.
Okay. No, cool. I guess your expertise in being on the other side first and having to deal with this environment helps you to understand what is the logic, and greatly helps. I guess, it's really an added value, but no, cool. One last question. You are an Inc. company, so which means you are established in the US. You are also very German and somehow also very Italian, European.
Yes, so we are a very mixed company, that's true. Yeah.
Mixed company on both sides of the ocean, but you are also selling and engaging with insurances on both sides of the ocean. So can you tell us a bit the difference between the Americans' approach to HIPAA compliance and other regulatory standards, and US and the European insurances?
Yes, so I think in Europe there is the mantra that the US don't care about data security. I can confirm that's not true. So also, of course, the US insurance companies, the US health tech and health companies are also always want to have HIPAA compliance, which is basically similar to the GDPR requirements of Europe. So they are aware of it. They follow it. You must comply. And I think the general principles of both systems are roughly the same. It's about processes, how data is secured, how data is deleted, how data is stored, and so on. So I think also converting from GDPR to HIPAA is not that crazy difficult. Where I see more differences is culturally. So for example, might be a German thing. I'm German, or a European thing, but the Germans are a bit not afraid, but more reluctant to big tech players. So when you say, yeah, we are hosting with Google, AWS, Microsoft, and so on, they have more questions about it. Okay, where is it hosted? Where is it backed up? What's the security standards, and so on. In the US, when you say, yeah, we're working together with AWS, Google, then they trust it already. They don't care so much about where's the backup and so on, because they have more trust into this big players and are less critical about that. So this is something I can share. And the end user because we are the application is in the use for the end user for us. They are also less data critical. They just use it. They don't think so much about data security. On the company side, they are sensitive.
And in Europe, in Germany, do you get questions from the end users also on the app? Yeah, you get more.
Especially from a bit older people. So not from the 20-year-olds, but from the 50-year-olds. They ask questions, which is fair. So it's a topic there for them.
No, the cultural thing is it's interesting and clearly different here and there. Thank you, Johannes. Very nice testimony and a very particular case.
We got one more question for Johannes.
Okay, cool.
And Johannes, this is from the chat. I think we've got two questions for Johannes. Are you looking? This is one member of the audience. Have you considered or looking at Asia for expansion?
Not with insurances yet. So I do not know a lot about the Asia insurance security standard market. My assumption is that when you comply in Europe, then you usually comply with one of the most restrictive data security standards, and then it should be quite easy convertible into other systems. That's my assumption, but I have not looked very specifically into that market.
Okay. Okay. So Luiza Dobre, are you here?
Thank you.
Luiza Dobre is here. Hello, everyone.
Okay,
I have to apologize.
we're bringing her on.
Yes,
Johannes,
I have to
we're gonna bring you
apologize.
back.
Traffic in Bucharest is insane. 45 minutes took 2 hours.
Where are you, Luiza? I feel like I'm talking to a ghost.
I just landed in Bucharest, and I was supposed to take 45 minutes, but I'm since 2 hours in the taxi, almost 2 hours. So yeah, welcome to Bucharest.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Can we put you on the screen?
Yes, please. I will not be able to put my camera, unfortunately, because but I hope everyone can hear me well.
We can hear you. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Luiza.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me here, Jose and Jovan. Thank you so much for the invite.
And Luiza, do you mind introducing? I've never actually had a ghost on a webinar before, Luiza. You're the first ghost, but you're a very friendly ghost.
I'm a very friendly ghost, yes.
And can you introduce yourself?
So a part of being a very friendly ghost, my name is Luiza Dobre. I'm CEO and founder of Combat Health. We are based out of Zurich. Originally, I'm Romanian. That's why I'm in Bucharest currently. So I started this company in 2017. I met Jovan, I think even before we started the company, like incorporated it in 2017. So it's a long journey since I know Jovan, and he and his team has helped us get in check when it comes to GDPR and security. So what do? We basically tackle a very serious problem that hospitals have. I don't know if you guys know, inefficient communication in healthcare is one of the leading causes of death after heart disease and cancer. In US alone, there are about 250,000 people dying because of inefficient communication, and in Switzerland, about 3,500. So that's quite a serious topic, and this is what I found out about 8 years ago. And at that time, I was using Slack, and I was wondering why there is no Slack in healthcare. And little that I knew what it takes to develop Slack, but that's a side story. Since I didn't come back with background in healthcare, I spent a lot of time in hospitals with doctors and nurses to understand how they work. And I realized that the standard in healthcare is using pagers, deck phone, fax, paper. So the data is kind of everywhere. not interoperable. The patient journeys are very fragmented and very specialized. So you have a lot of different healthcare professionals taking care of one single patient. This delays a lot the process of care, makes doctors and nurses have the information very late or incomplete, and spend a lot of time on chasing the right information or the right people. So basically what we have developed at Comet Health is all-in-one communication and collaboration platform. It's a SaaS platform. We are mobile first, but we are also on desktop that streamline collaboration, communication among healthcare providers, professionals. So we are basically selling to hospitals, and our user are any employee of a hospital. And we replace all these outdated ways of communication that I just mentioned before. And the biggest value of our product, I mean, as Johannes said, security is hygiene, right? That's hygiene and a simple user interface. But the value of our product is really integrating seamlessly with different hospital information systems. We integrate with EHR, with lab, with radiology, with nurse call, not to duplicate what is in those systems, but to basically trigger real-time notification in the form of alarms, in the form of notification, in the form of links every time the information is available. And we contextualize this information around the patient case or around the case or around the role. So as you know, in hospitals, people work around roles, not necessarily, you don't always know who is people by name, but you know them, you need the on-call surgeon now. So yeah, this is in a nutshell what we are doing at Comet Health. And in terms of what we bring to hospitals is, like as I said, efficiency. So we did a recent study that I would like to share with you. So we proved that we reduce up to 2.5 hour time for a nurse and 1.5 hours time for a doctor, which is huge savings. And something maybe new as well for Jovan, something that we have actually, I'm very proud to announce that we just launched 2 weeks ago. We integrated an API that actually allows doctors to record patient-doctor conversations. Basically ambient voice recognition, record that information and summarize it and code it for the medical invoices and pushing into DMR, which basically saves a lot of time when it comes to documentation.
Thanks, Luiza. So I didn't know about these new features. So looking forward to hear
I
more.
know, yeah, the topic of AI. So yeah, obviously we have additional question when it comes to data protection, right?
Yeah, of course, an AI Act, etc. But especially the fact that you are based in Zurich and that you are also selling or targeting European countries and hospitals. So how did you find you or at least you have experience with all these DACH countries where you deliver your service. So how did you find the difference, for example, in Switzerland compared to Germany?
So a couple of years ago in Switzerland, there was a bit a gray line on what the regulations are. So there was no GDPR requirement in Switzerland until recently. And Switzerland has their own laws that have been implemented since September last year now. But they kind of fall under that. So this is also maybe remember, Jovan, we worked together when it comes to the GDPR because we were targeting German hospitals. So absolutely, as Johannes said, this is a hygiene to be fully compliant with GDPR. When it comes to
Comes to
Luiza.
to Switzerland, Swiss hospitals, I think actually the American big cloud providers, right? Sorry?
Okay, so there was a
sorry?
bit of a gap, but you said Switzerland, the cloud providers, do they want the data to be stored in Switzerland?
Exactly. So they don't accept AWS or Google or Microsoft as a cloud provider, so American cloud providers. So that's why they would expect us to have a local cloud provider, which we actually have. This comes with positive and negatives. Of course, this differentiates us in front of other players who basically are on AWS, like American companies who try to maybe come to Europe, like competitors. So that was a no-go for Swiss hospitals or German hospitals. But as well, yet it also poses some challenges for us because, for example, one challenge that we had with our cloud provider, you don't have the recovery, the same the same services that an AWS will offer. So, for example, our cloud provider keeps the logs only for 3 days. So we normally need the longer. Observability is a challenge. So, we are actually building this on top in order to basically provide those services, which are critical in the moment you run a software as a service application in order to know what's happening.
Yeah, no, cool, interesting. So, so it looks like in Switzerland, it's pretty much the same tough approach to data protection requirements, but it looks like a bit more technical. So where the data is compared to perhaps to the other countries, is that the main difference?
I would say so. I think, as I said, the Swiss law has changed a lot in the last year. So there have been some changes since last year, and as well now so far we have clients in Switzerland and in Germany. So now I'm dealing with different complexities because we are about to sign our first hospital in Dubai. So this means another complexities because I think we are working on scaling our cloud infrastructure in that region and trying to understand what we need to do in that region. And of course, one of the main important thing is the data has to be in UAE. So we are still learning.
Yeah, that already came up during the interactions with Middle East, let's say, countries that typically they ask for data to be there, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, interesting. No, thanks for your testimony. I don't know. Now we have another 14 minutes during 13 now of webinars. So Jose, would you like
a group hug?
Group hug. Okay. So everybody on smiling, except Luiza, she's hiding in a taxi.
There we go.
Luiza is always smiling, huh? You can feel the energy. It's all energy.
We have questions.
The audience is not going to appreciate today.
And can we start off with Francesca? I'm going to read it out. It seems all sorts of rehab centers ask for data protection questions.
Yeah.
When does this usually come up in the sales process? Is it a final validation? Or is it more of a filtering criteria at the beginning of the process?
It's a filtering criteria at the beginning of the process, I would say, because it's a mandatory to demonstrate compliance in terms of data protection and GDPR. I have read another question related to data protection during validation and clinical studies. And I would add to this answer that during clinical studies, it is not mandatory to have a DPO, internal or external DPO. It is not required by the ethical committee or the regulatory authorities, such as the Ministry of Health, even if it is much better to have it, of course. But soon after, once you are on the market, it is required. In any case, for clinical validation, for clinical studies, ethical committees required assurances in terms of GDPR compliance. This is per protocol now. I hope I've answered the question.
I know, you didn't give me a chance to read it out.
Okay.
What role did data protection play on setting up clinical studies? Daniele, did you have a different answer? I'll read out the question.
No, actually, I'm on the same page with Francesca. I agree with what she said, and we got the very same experience. Ethical committees are very attentive to what it is data protection and data management. Probably less than what it would be with private customers many times. But in any case, you need to be able to show that you are design a process that is compliant.
Okay. We have another question here. I think, Johannes, you answered it. didn't you, in the chat?
Yeah, I took the time to answer it in the chat because I thought it's a very relevant question. So the question was if it makes sense to have a European-based company if you want to work with European-based insurance companies, and I can 100% confirm that. So we have established that by creating a German operating company. It could be anywhere in the European Union. This makes it much more easier for them because they will have this in their question, and most of them require anyway hosting in Germany, and then for example that some employees are in Germany who can take care of the hosting and the services and so on, or in the European Union. So you will need this anyway. So I think it makes total sense to set this up. And regarding the process, what the insurers are asking for, or how this looks like, some of them is calls. So you will just have a call with the DPO, and he will tell you where he has some problems or what he wants to focus on. Then there is usually a part where you have to answer questionnaires, what you do, how, and then in the end, the final part is basically where you develop the data security document, and they then spar back and forth with them how you write this down, what you need to comply, what can be deleted, what can be what needs to be extended. So,
Oh, I've got another question for our friendly ghost. Were there any changes? Oh, by the way, thank you for that, Johannes.
The ghost is here.
The ghost is here. Obviously, I'm laughing at my own jokes, but were there any changes in how hospitals in Switzerland evaluate COMED health after the new privacy approved? Are they already aware of the requirements?
I see. So we had to, we were aware of the requirements, and we had to just to work together with our legal partner to basically update some documents and basically some processes. But it's very similar to basically GDPR, right? I mean, for example, we need an external DPO, which we didn't need before. And we need to make sure that the data never leaves Switzerland in any case, also not even for, it's because we also have some of our employees are based in Serbia as well, so we have to make sure that all these are in check.
It's interesting how the new regulations, then, for example, for GDPR, it took several years before DPOs and hospitals were asking questions. Luiza, now you see it, but
the ghost
you need to
here.
In her. Okay, here we are. So no, so it's interesting how in Switzerland the law was immediately embraced by hospitals and immediately applied much faster than, for example, what happened to GDPR in 2016 to 18, and then it took some years before everybody started asking the right questions. And you see, for example, Johannes, you still get kind of the wrong questions or culturally based questions instead of law-based questions, for example, to have the data in Germany, even though there is no such a requirement at all, but you don't want to fight the customers on that, so you just say yes. Interesting. And another law that came in practice in force last year was the AI Act. And Daniele here, you are embracing the AI and applying the AI with your solutions. Did you already started getting questions from your customers on the AI Act, or how AI behaves? Where is the data going?
Fortunately,
the question
not.
For me or?
Oh, for Daniele.
Okay.
No, fortunately, people are not asking yet about the AI Act provisions. It's more on us to get aligned as soon as possible, to understand as soon as possible what the AI Act is requiring. And what we absolutely understood is that it's not managing AI models, it's not the same way of managing AI Acts provisions. That's very natural, maybe, but in the end, it's the way in which AI models are evolving, it's very, very fast. The way in which the AI Act provisions require AI model to behave into the customer sites or the hospital sites is much slower with what we can have. But there is not that that emphasis today on the new regulation. All the people are yet stuck on the MDR. So they need to digest first the MDR before understanding that there is a new one they need to understand.
But this is interesting because it looks like that the regulation is really attached to really the value that you're providing. For example, in your case, it's a medical product. It assists specialists in discovering cancer and diagnosis and so on. So it's very connected to the medical device that you're providing. It looks like that's why the questions are focused on that. So perhaps a suggestion for entrepreneurs in listening is that the questions will be associated to your product. So it's not something that people are going to ask you based on nothing, but in your case, it's associated to the product and very relevant actually questions. You're not going to get dumb questions perhaps, but it's like.
And I can confirm what you're saying, just because all the questions that we are receiving by customers or by users, when you say that you have medical devices, they associate that to an hardware medical device. So they expect to see the hardware. And that's exactly why the reason why you are saying that. People are associating the value to the device, and the device is an object. If it is an object, tangible object, it has more value.
Francesca, you are confirming that with the device, you have a device. No, you're muted.
Hello.
No, you're not muted.
Francesca?
No, something.
No, we've lost her. She's lost her voice.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
you.
Okay, good. Okay. Yes, I was smiling because actually we have hardware plus software plus AI embedded into the hardware. They can perceive the value with tangible devices. But on the contrary, sometimes in the rehabilitation sector, it happens that they say, no.
Oh no, we lost Francesca's voice.
Again, we lost you again. The most important moment when you said in the rehabilitation centers. No.
Oh, Francesca.
Okay.
It's hard to be the ghost.
Oh,
She's back. She's back. Don't touch anything.
Let's try with.
We can hear you.
Oh, but Jose.
Yeah.
So we have 2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes. We're going to an after party.
We have an after party, right? So there is a surprise. We didn't announce that surprise.
And by the way, if one of the problems with the after party is once I close this, that you're not going to be able to access that Zoom link. But if you don't have that Zoom link, you can go to the LinkedIn event page for this webinar, and it's there at the very top of the comments. You can click on it. You can come on camera and you can talk to us.
Yeah, please do so. So what are you going to share here, Jose? The link to the other Zoom?
Yeah, you see, do you guys see it at 4:54 in the chat? Me to everyone. When the webinar ends, you can join us.
Okay, yeah. So there's an after party link here in 1 minute, right?
Yeah, in 1 minute.
So
hopefully
you were finishing something. You were saying that in rehabilitation.
Yes, it happens that the rehabilitation is not considered as a medical sector. So, and it also happens that healthcare professionals think that software is not a medical device, not requiring certification. So.
I guess that's why many companies survived all these years without any certification, and now everybody is running to do some.
Yeah.
Cool. So After party starting in 5 seconds.
Thank you very much, everybody. See you in the after
Thank
party.
you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you to all the speakers and all the attendees.